paid my dues time after time. I've done my sentence, but committed no crime.
Hello everybody, this is Steve Vetti 2. I'm going to go into an analysis of Attorney Pam Bondi's testimony on February 11, 2026. Analysis of information types, facts, here we go. Jared Wise employment Bondi. Bondi confirmed that Jared Wise, a convicted January 6th participant, is employed by the Department of Justice. And here's that.
His name is Jared Wise.
He does work for us.
He works for you at the Department of Justice.
He does.
This is an individual whom a federal grand jury indicted for 2 felonies and 4 misdemeanors related to his participation in the attack on January 6th. One of those charges was forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, and interfering with police with the intent to commit another felony. This is who you choose as the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the United States of America to hire at the Department of Justice. Someone on video yelling, "Kill him," at police officers, right?
I believe he was pardoned by President Trump.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, he goes, he's pardoned.
Who signed off on the special privileges? Was it Mr. Blanche? Was it one of your other subordinates? So please, can you tell us who sent her there, since you don't agree she should be there?
I said I do not agree she should receive special treatment. She was transferred, I learned after the fact, to the same level facility, and that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level facility, I don't know why, but instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should be talking about Irina Zarutska.
I have a couple
who died on a subway.
Right, and I absolutely...
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues. But we're going to move back to you.
That was, okay. The first little thing was about Pam Bondi hiring Jared Wise. Second one, National Cryptocurrency in CET representative, I guess.
What I will say is we are looking at everything to shed light on what happened that day, and it is an ongoing and active investigation. Both of those cases, and I assure you they will be investigated.
Investigating, we understand that, but will you do everything in your power, as you have done for my case, as you are asked to do, as you've sworn an oath to do? It is your responsibility to make sure that you are following the rule of law. Those families in Minnesota, they deserve the same respect. They deserve a full investigation, which you have not even begun to do yet. So what are you saying, is that they don't deserve any respect for a full investigation into their murders?
Well,
that
that's
is
not
incompetence on your behalf.
Well, that is not
American people do deserve better. Non-commitment to defending the rule of law is what we see from you. I will always stand up for survivors, and I heard you say earlier when you told us that you will fight for them as well. And based on the information before us, these families have not received the same commitment to investigate what happened to their loved ones, nor have they received the respect that I would expect from the nation's top law enforcement officer. Investigations have been slow-walked, they've been canceled, and the special agent assigned to Renee Good's investigation resigned following pressure from your officials to reclassify Ms. Good's case.
I'm the gentle lady.
Me seeking answers and accountability. The withdrawal of investigative resources is unacceptable.
Clearly a term as I can. What is a federal detainer for the American people? Please describe it.
Federal detainer is when someone is held in federal custody.
Yes. And when a federal detainer is issued to local law enforcement, they are obviously in local or state custody, correct?
Yes.
And federal officers take note of that apprehension and they say, we want to come and apprehend him or her to deport them. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
And in these sanctuary jurisdictions, whether it's California, Illinois, New York, or other places, even in North Carolina, there are sanctuary jurisdictions. That federal detainer often prompts not any cooperation, not any assistance, but a release onto the streets. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, and Congressman, a federal detainer is federal law.
Yes.
People must abide by, yet these jurisdictions, many of these jurisdictions are not abiding by that.
And we hear a lot of talk from
Yeah, but she's not telling the whole truth. It's a judicial warrant. It's not a judicial warrant. It's a administrative warrant. I know in Texas, what happens is the court judge actually puts it in the court filing. If they find out this person is undocumented, they say that they can contact their embassy and do stuff like that. They will go through the trial. If they get found guilty, they'll be sentenced, fulfill their sentencing, and then on the order itself, it says to deport upon completion of their sentencing. So that's what Texas does to make sure that they go, because that is a court order that has to be followed, and if that was not followed, that's a violation of the court order, which is what should happen. But no, now granted, she's kind of right, but they're not law enforcement; they're immigration's control enforcement, which means they're in charge of immigration's in and out. They're not supposed to go out on the street and arrest. Over 30 names of survivors were unredacted list of the survivors that was put out.
This was not because you only had 30 days when you really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List. There are 32 names. One is redacted, 31 are not. So someone looked at it and decided to redact something. And I will tell you that that is clearly intentional to intimidate these survivors and victims. Now, in an interview last week,
Will you tell me that's intentional?
in an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche
Can't go off script.
said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses.
Gentleman's time has expired.
And I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman Knott. Thank you, Mr.
A moment, Congressman.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Here we go. Here's the photograph. This is why he wanted to repeat everything that had been said previously on Epstein. This is his state, New York. You probably don't even know who this is. Wahid Mohammed from Afghanistan.
Yes, because I'm no longer a prosecutor.
Convicted of assault. Wow. He represents New York. Wow. Yet he doesn't care about the illegal aliens convicted of crimes.
Yeah,
Assault and homicide. No longer a prosecutor, so he doesn't care about his constituents. Here we go. Arson, El Salvador, Miguel Palacios. Furman Flores Ramales, Mexico, rape.
Let's talk about the 70% of immigrants who are detained without a criminal conviction or arrest.
Stop the clock. Time belongs to Congressman Knott. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So that was in regards to the transparency. As you can see, she hadn't talked to any of them. None of her people have talked to them. None of them even reached out. So they're not actually doing anything in that case. And here is the maximum transfer ignorance. Bondi claimed she learned after the fact and was not involved in Maxwell's transfer. This contradicts my report indicating the transfer followed a 2-day interview with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche in Florida.
Is not involved in that at all. The same level facility. I don't know why, but You know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should
I
be
have a
talking
couple-
about Irina Zarutska,
I have a couple
who
of
died
other-
on a subway.
Right, and I absolutely.
You don't talk about that.
I have been talking about it and actually helping with these issues, but we're going to move back to you.
I bet we are.
Yes, of course, because you're here to testify. That's what the whole point of this endeavor is. So of course we're moving back to you. It is all about you. So as we've heard, she took the fifth in response to every single question in that committee hearing. And her lawyer dangled the offer of clemency. Should Donald Trump pardon or commute her sentence? Should she be released from prison? Yes or no? You said you hope she dies there, so I'm hoping the answer is no.
I already answered that question.
Good. I'm very glad. I really like this bipartisan agreement about
Well, when
what
it
should
agrees with
happen.
you, but you
Yeah.
don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You don't want to talk about
I talk about her
murdered
all
by
the
a
time,
violent crime
but I
offendant
am not
in
here
your
to
jurisdiction.
testify before Congress. You are. That is your job today.
You are
That's what you're getting.
obsessed with attack.
So I want you to know that your own DOJ employee, he's recently been demoted and had some other problems, advises on pardons. Do you think he will be advising Mr. Trump on any kind of clemency or pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell?
I'm not going to speculate, and you couldn't even identify properly. That's why you don't want to talk about Irina Zarutska. You couldn't properly identify her relative.
I absolutely
It's embarrassing.
have been, and her family, by the way, appreciates all of the condolences, all of the help, everything that our law enforcement in North Carolina has been doing to help her family. Her family feels well treated. Thank you, and I yield back.
Ms. Lady yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'd ask unanimous.
We can do those unanimous consents, but there's just a bunch of paperwork that they've used that they're just keep putting on the record. That's all they are. All right. That was the transparency of Maxwell. So let's see the propaganda, crime statistics. Bondi touted 20% drop in murder rates in 2025, the lowest murders since 1900s. While crime fell in 2024, the 1900 claim is historically unsupported and serves to bolster the administration's safe cities narrative.
And provided testimony and estimate and evidence. None.
Crime and obtained a 6-count indictment of the murder suspect, stating that he had intent to kill, injury, harass, and intimidate Minnesota legislators. And I have the
Attorney General Blanche's supervision, a comprehensive review was led, and the department issued new guidelines protecting all Americans and protecting against the weaponization that happened under the Biden administration.
Time the gentleman has expired. Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I went over to the department yesterday for a couple of hours to review some of the unredacted materials. And I am looking forward to your detailed explanation for why you have withheld almost half of the documents, which is required by the bill. Now, obviously, there are 3 million documents, so I didn't get through much. But one thing I didn't see was the client list that you said you had on your desk a year ago. I did, however, find a couple of important documents. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York and a draft indictment from Florida against Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. For reasons that I cannot understand nor are permitted by the bill, they were still redacted, even for members of Congress. With your staff, and I can assure you, Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List.
enforcement leader.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You know, President Trump has also he has referred to himself as the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So do you believe that President Trump is honest?
He is the commander-in-chief of the United States
do you
of America.
believe
And
that
not only is he
Trump is
keeping
honest?
this country safe,
Do you
he
believe
is keeping this
honest?
world
It's a
safe.
simple question,
Of
which you
course
didn't
I do.
answer.
He is the
Okay, thank you.
commander-in-chief.
Last June, Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog were brutally murdered in their home. And your USA's office in Minnesota investigated this crime and obtained a 6-count indictment of the murder suspect, stating that he had intent to kill, injury, harass, and intimidate Minnesota legislators. And I have the copy right here. I read through it. Yet a few weeks ago, President Trump suggested publicly that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was behind these murders, posting on his Truth Social account a video raising this conspiracy theory. And it wasn't true. And you know it wasn't true, or else you would not have brought an indictment against the subject. Do you know what else Trump has said? He has said he has cut gas prices by 1,400%. False. That he won the 2020 election.
Actually, gas is down to $1.99 a gallon, thanks to
That he
President
didn't
Trump.
know Epstein.
Maybe $5 in
That he said,
California.
it's my time, Mr.
Oh, let's see. Current average price is $2.55. Mid-grade is $3.06, basically. Yesterday's average was $2.55. Mid-range was $30.70. A month ago, it was $2.04. I don't see a $1.91 price, and that's all from. Here you go. There's where it's gone. And you can actually go in here to Texas and see all the different prices. And okay, I don't see a $2 yet. A dollar. Oh, that one's in. Let's go up in the panhandle of the blue. So we would have to go dark blue is 242, 260. So this right here is the lowest prices, I guess. Yeah, so no, she's wrong. Okay, this
Begs the question, who ordered her to be transferred to the minimum security prison that she was ineligible for? Who signed off on the special privileges? Was it Mr. Blanche? Was it one of your other subordinates? So please, can you tell us who sent her there, since you don't agree she should be there?
I said I do not agree she should receive special treatment. She was transferred, I learned after the fact, to the same level facility, and that is a question for the Bureau of Prisons. I was not involved in that at all. The same level facility, I don't know why.
she is the attorney.
You know, instead of talking about Ghislaine Maxwell, who hopefully will die in prison, you should
I
be
have a
talking
couple-
about Irina Zarutska.
The funny thing is she's attorney general. The deputy attorney general was the one that went down and made all this arrangements. Just saying.
His ties to Epstein.
Oh,
Excuse me. Secretary Lutnick has addressed those ties himself.
I'm asking you, has the Justice Department specifically asked Secretary Lutnick about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
He has addressed those ties himself.
Has the DOJ asked Secretary Phelan about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein?
I don't know whether he has addressed those or not.
Has the Deputy Secretary Feinberg talked to the Department of Justice about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein? Yes or no? Has the Department of Justice talked to Deputy Secretary Feinberg about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which are clearly spelled out in the files? It's a very simple question. It's not a trick question. I'm just asking you.
Yeah, I'm stunned that you want to continue talking about.
Oh my gosh.
Epstein
Okay.
instead of a
reclaiming
border
my
patrol
time.
agent.
I'm asking you not a trick question, a simple question. Okay, so what is clear is we have evidence.
Do you know
that
who Chris Malin is?
We have evidence that 3 senior officials within the Trump administration have ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And what I
What
can
does ties
conclude,
mean?
I can conclude
What does
from what
ties
you are saying that you have not talked to them.
What does ties
So,
mean?
I
Can you
think
define that?
Americans
She is interrupting, and actually the question she's asking is, what does ties mean? She said has ties to Epstein. And Pam Bondi's yelling, what is ties? And that's what they're famous for.
would be shocked to learn that you are not interested in talking with these officials who have ties to Jeffrey Epstein.
What does
Across
ties
the
mean?
world,
Can you define that?
across the world,
Can you
prominent
define
men
ties?
who've been
Lots-
exposed
lots of-
in the files have resigned their jobs in disgrace. And that's a good first start. And that same
Disgrace is
standard,
not saying the word
this
Chris
same
Malin.
standard should apply here. And Americans want accountability.
Who is Chris Malin?
Was the president
he?
aware? Please stop talking. It is not your time to ask
Who was he?
questions. It is not your time. I'm reclaiming my time, Mr. Chair.
One second.
Time belongs to the gentlelady from Vermont.
Was the president aware of Secretary Lutnick's ties to Epstein when he chose him to lead the Department of Commerce? Was he aware?
Chris Malin was a Border Patrol agent.
Okay, so I'm going to conclude
and
that
she
the president,
never
in fact,
mentioned
didn't
him.
know about his ties because he was the next door neighbor.
Shame on you.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
You're
this
from
is
a tiny,
pathetic.
beautiful
This is
state.
pathetic, Mr.
Committee will be
Chair.
in order.
I'm not asking trick questions here.
You
The
got your
American
5
people
Okay, I'm going to let this play because what comes up is utterly baloney and should not have been allowed, and she should have been admonished for it. And I'm talking about Pam Bondi, not her. So I'll let this play out so we can watch it. Here we go.
right to know the answers to this. These are senior officials in the Trump administration. This is not a game, Secretary.
I'm Attorney General.
My apologies, I couldn't tell. By 2008, we knew that Epstein was a convicted sexual abuser. And we now know that Lutnick went to Epstein's Island in 2012. How was that not a deal breaker for the president? And why aren't you asking questions of the Commerce Secretary about what he saw when he was at the island, which he lied about not ever going to? Why are you not asking these questions? And I see that my time is almost expired, so I will say this.
Shame.
Do the right thing, Attorney General. Meet with the survivors. They have been asking for a year. Meet with the survivors. Do the right thing. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from South Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
May I have 20 seconds if
Here
it's
it
time?
comes.
So that'd be up to the gentleman, but
Absolutely, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you. I was curious if you, Congresswoman, asked Bill Clinton that. Didn't see one tweet, not one. I didn't see one tweet when Joe Biden was in office about Bill Clinton. Didn't ask Merrick Garland anything about Epstein, not once when he was.
Weak sauce. Weak
And
sauce.
also, I want the record to reflect that, with this anti-Semitic culture right now, she voted against a resolution condemning.
Oh,
Israel. Be clear.
do you want to go
time-
there, Attorney
time
General?
belongs to
Do
the
you want to go there? Are
time
you
belongs to the gentleman from South
Semitism
Carolina.
to a woman who
Ladies,
your grandfather in the Holocaust?
my time. I read my time.
the committee will be in order.
Talk to Jared Wise about anti-Semitism.
The ranking member knows that.
Can I get like 30 seconds back,
Yeah.
Well, it's ridiculous because did you see she called it, she yelled that anti-Semitism to a woman that her grandfather died in the Holocaust. She screamed that. That is not right and should not have been accepted. And you notice how they just went right on by it and they were trying to get it called out, but they wouldn't. That's why I blame Jim Jordan and Pam Bondi. Both need to be held accountable for that right there. I hope other people will agree with me. And there's a letter at the end of this that y'all can see. So the mechanisms and truths, the jurisdictional pivot, when asked about the DOJ's conduct or specific files, Bondi systematically attacked the crime rates in the questioner's home district, i.g. Boulder, Atlanta, Culver City. This is a mechanism to delegitimize the oversight authority of the representatives rather than answering the query. The historic whataboutisms. Bondi frequently cited Biden, Obama, and Clinton in the administration to evade accountability. Yeah, she's always like, oh, what about this guy? What about this guy? What about this guy? It's your responsibility right now. And yes, those people were questioned. Obama wasn't really, and the only reason that Trump is being questioned on this whole thing is because his name's in the file so many damn times, and they tried to cover it up. 1,000 agents were put on staff to cover that up. Hate speech incident. We just basically watched that. Bondi accused Representative Becca Ballant, a Jewish woman whose grandfather was killed in the Holocaust, of supporting an anti-Semitic culture because of the previous vote. Ballant characterized this as a pathetic and offensive attempt to weaponize her heritage against her. Pam Bondi likes to throw out her little burn book that she has. Let's throw up some things from her past. The Trump University pay to play, as a Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi office declined to investigate Trump University after receiving a $25,000 campaign contribution from Donald Trump's foundation. And as a matter of fact, I think the Trump University was shut down for fraud, but yet she stopped the investigation. That's her. Lobby ties. Before returning to government, she was registered as a lobbyist for Qatar, a various corporate interests, raising questions about her public integrity and priorities. Yeah, where are they doing a lot of things right now? They're going over to Qatar quite a bit. So she's got ties to Qatar. That's questionable. That should be questioned. Epstein gatekeeping, as you've heard, the witnesses have been going and asking to be heard, asking to have their testimonies taken down, and she has refused to listen to them. And this has been a failure since 1996. So go all the way back there, and that's when it started. And that's mostly the FBI. And I think all of a sudden, in one of those terms, here's some legislative approvals that I think they could do. Blind status investigation, background files, because they do a background investigation if you're arrested. They do one. Background files shall indicate citizenship status, citizen, non-citizen, only to presiding judge up to a point. The information remains shielded from the jury until the verdict is read and is free public. Upon sentencing, citizen integrated deportation. Upon a guilty verdict, this is if they get found guilty, a sentencing, the judge shall immediately issue a deportation order as a condition of the sentencing. Basically, put it on the end of the order. You've been found guilty of this, blah, 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 blah. It has grounds for deportation. So at the end, when you complete your sentencing or you're put on parole, you are to be deported out of the country to your country of origin or any country that will accept you if your country of origin won't. Because some country of origins will not return them, accept the return. And I think Australia, I got to look at them. I'm not sure which one I'm going to say in. ICE integration. The court shall transmit the verdict and sentence to ICE. So basically, well, to immigration, DHS, I should say that DHS, will transmit to DHS. This person was found guilty because they know he's a non-citizen or a citizen. If he's a non-citizen, they send this information over to immigration, DHS. Says this person was found guilty of this charge. Here's the time of the sentence. Here's where I put it in the order. Here's the order number. Upon receiving that order number, they write it down, they make a note of it, and they enter it into a calendar, their calendar for the system. Basically gives the out date of a person. At that point, they will acknowledge it, and somebody else from the Department of Homeland Security will verify that the information is entered and send it back to the judge stating that they have that information and here's what information they have to verify the dates are correct. Once that is done, they felt, okay, the guy, whoever it was, the guy or gal, goes through the sentence, finishes it. They're at the either going on parole or going out completion of sentence. At that point, and I said basically give them 48 hours, which was once the order to leave is done, the sentence is complete, or they go on parole on a certain date. That certain date, they have 48 hours for ICE to come pick them up. But once they are within, I say a week, they already know when the person's getting out. So send the information saying, hey, this is the day the person's getting out. And ICE needs to respond and say, okay, we've got that. And here's what we're scheduling. And this was right now at this time, tentatively, this is the person that's coming. So they have all that information at hand right then, so that they know that they've got it from the courts, and the courts have acknowledged that they've got the information. And that would be that would require the state to handle the prisoner. If ICE does not show up 48 hours after the order to release, because that's as long as they could think they could say, I said 48 hours, but 72 hours is as long as they can hold somebody without new charges. Prison will say, hey, ICE hadn't come up. Do we release this guy, or what do we do? Because we can't hold him in prison anymore. And most likely they're going to say release him if ICE didn't show up, which is what they got to do. Because the city and the state cannot transfer him to the border. That's immigration's job. That's DHS's job. Correspondence letter. This is a short one, and I did a better one down there. Basically, this is testimony for on February 11th, highlighting the significant discrepancies between the Department of Justice claims and their verifiable. This is a short, quick little thing that uses the whole thing before it as a reference, so it would be all included, which would be a long one. And then there's the one for the Oversight Committee. One's for the Judiciary Committee, Representative Nugis, and the Oversight Committee. Bibliography, all of the links that I've used. And here's the letter that I wrote as a standalone letter. It's at the end of it. So if you don't want to use the short one, you can use this one. To the Office of Representatives, whoever's representative's name, Babin, whoever. Subject, formal grievance regarding the Department of Justice Oversight Hearing, February 11th, 2026. To all members of the committee and my elected representative, I am writing to formally express my profound disappointment and concern regarding the conduct of the House Judiciary Committee Oversight Hearing held February 11th, 2026, featuring Attorney General Pam Bondi. The proceedings did not reflect the gravity of the issues at hand. Instead, they appeared to be staged for partisan theatrics and blatant display of political bias, and undermine the public's trust in our democratic institution. And that's basically the way they were acting. They're not compromising. They're just, There's that. And the other thing that I'm seeing, the whole thing, and I think it's pretty blatant, is she is not committing to anything and constantly doing. And she needs to realize she does not have total immunity. None of them do. And I'll get into some of that later. But here we go. A failure of decorum. This is continuation letter. Failure of decorum and accountability. During the hearing, the lack of decorum was palpable. Attorney General Bondi repeatedly engaged in deflection, personal attacks, and what can only be described as a grandstanding. Most notable, her direct comment towards Representative Becca Balint, referencing an anti-Semitic culture, was a grievous breach of conduct, weaponizing such a sensitive accusation against a lawmaker who is herself a descendant of a Holocaust victim, is not only historical tone deaf, but serves as a distraction for substantive oversight. The structure of the hearing appeared deeply flawed was scripted lines of questioning that prioritized ideological alignment over factual inquiry. The refusal to provide direct answers regarding the Epstein Files Transparency Act and the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team, which was reportedly dismissed or eliminated in April 2025, demonstrates the lack of commitment to the transparency the American people were promised. And I agree 100% with that. Okay, I'm not going to be able to pronounce two of these words because they're German. The Attorney General's rhetoric labeled Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization requires rigorous factual scrutiny. History shows that Autofaschismus, well, the German word for anti-fascism, originated in the 1930s, so kind of hard to find the leader of Antifa now. In the 1930s, Europe as directed resistance movement against Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini. By definition, Antifa is shorthand for anti-fascism ideology, not centralized organization with leaders or membership roles. No, there's not. Just okay, you're against fascism. The label, the idea of being against fascism as a terrorist creates a dangerous logical paradox. If government is officially anti-Antifa, it signals a position that is against anti-fascism. This is a terrifying image to project to the global community. Furthermore, it insults the legacy of millions of U.S. service members who fought and died in World War II, and I would go so far as to go World War I, Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait, Korea, Vietnam, Kosovo, Grenada, and I don't know all the others, but yeah, those. I think it's an insult to all service members that served during those times. 3. Conflicts of interest and public integrity. The public cannot ignore the documented history of Attorney General, which has raised significant public integrity questions. The Trump University scandal in 2013, the Florida AG's office declined to investigate fraud complaints against Trump University after receiving $25,000 contribution to her from the Trump Foundation. Foreign lobbying. Her past, this is in the letter, so it's going to say some of the stuff. Her past as a registered lobbyist for the government of Qatar and the corporate interest, like the GEO group, private prisons, presents a massive conflict of interest from nation's chief law enforcement officer. So she's dealing with Qatar, which is a foreign entity which supports terrorists, and that's not cause to have her removed by the Republicans don't care. And I think I'd have to look at her hearing, but I think this was even brought up in her hearing. The Epstein file transparency and redaction. The DOJ recently released over 3 million documents, failed to protect the identities of dozens of survivors, 31, there was 32, one was marked out. So 31 of the survivors, and just one, I haven't seen a list of the people that are involved in that, or how many were involved in that, of the release of the nude pictures, which should not have been done, period, plain and simple. And I will say, if you did have connection and were trying to download those files and happen to come across those nude pictures, and you are unsure of their age, delete it immediately. Write it down where you got it from and what directory is in, where you got it from. Contact your local authorities. I wouldn't contact the FBI. I'd go to your local authorities and say, this is what I found. This is where it's at. I deleted it off my computer so it wouldn't get transferred off my computer. And I'm calling this out so that y'all can investigate it. Or you could do it anonymously. I found anonymously this site at this time at this address had this picture on it, and let it go from there. The conclusion and call to action. The United States is viewed by the world as a beacon of democracy and the rule of law, and the theatrics displayed on February 11th, 2026 projected an image of a nation divided by an us versus them mentality rather than one governed by shared facts and empathy for victims. I urge the committee to listen to the voices of the citizens and the international community, not just the directives from the White House. If the members of this committee and the Department of Justice cannot maintain the integrity of their office, they should consider whether they fit to continue serving the American people. And I read on the floor, and no BS. Post it to the official record and read on the floor. If it's read on the floor, it automatically but I do it just because we're dealing with lawyers a lot of times. And I have bibliographies attached, and of course, it's always signed John, the disabled Navy veteran. So that's my letter that I'm going to send off. I'll probably send it off in the morning because it's right now. And I just finished this up, and I'll do the editing tomorrow, sometime maybe tomorrow or the weekend. Please stay tuned for other videos. I will hopefully get this done. I need to do almost the whole week of the congressional record, and I might just do an overview of the whole week because I've missed a lot of it. Because I was more watching this hearing and the other hearing that they had on the 10th. Yeah, I did both those hearings so I could see what's going on, and it's very irritating, as you heard what she answered the questions. So we need to continue the fight. I would recommend asking your state representatives to get involved in the future state. It's run by it has 22 states already in it, and that's going to be a coalition. If federal government doesn't act the way this should and do not take care of the law like they should, these states want to band together and create a continental Congress, which they can with 2/3 of states. But the only problem is they can't do an amendment and get an amendment added unless they have 3/4 of the states. So that's what they got to do. And again, thank you for watching. Like, share, follow. Please remember, you are loved no matter what you do, and keep an eye out for my next videos, and see you later.